Hello everyone! Welcome to the virtual learning program prepared by Rainbow International School. And welcome grade 7 boys and girls. And are you ready to proceed to chapter 2? Okay, so chapter 2 is about David when he was sent away to school. And let's see, before we go through the chapter, let's take up some story elements. And we have here the settings. We have 3 settings actually in the chapter. And the first setting is in Blunderstone, located in the east of England, in Suffolk. Okay, it's the birthplace of David. And a scene happened in that place in chapter 2. There's also a scene in Yarmouth, the place where we can find the boathouse owned by Daniel Peggotty, and where he lives with his 2 orphans. Daniel, as we all know, is the brother of Clara Peggotty, the nurse of David. In this picture, you will see David here, young David. He was about 10, and he's about to leave for Salem House. Okay, and this is Mr. Barkis, the cart driver who brought him to Yarmouth. Okay, here we have Mr. Murdstone, Miss Murdstone, Clara Peggotty, and David's mom. Alright, so let us try to go to the characters. In chapter 1, we have met characters in David's life, including himself. Now in chapter 2, we have 4 new characters introduced, and they are Mr. Mel. We have Mr. Mel here. He is taking good care of young David. And Mr. Mel is the one who fetched him from the coach station in London, because the time when David arrived in London to go to Salem House, it was vacation time. It was a holiday, and only Mr. Mel was left in Salem House to look after the place. So for a month, David stayed with Mr. Mel, ate with him, talked to him, and Salem House was introduced to David because of Mr. Mel. And the next character is the headmaster of Salem House. His name is Mr. Quickle. He loves beating boys. The only boy he never beat was here, James Steerforth. Okay, so James Steerforth is an influential boy in Salem House. He is the oldest boy in Salem House. He's in fact 6 years older than David. And another boy here, his name is Tommy Traddles. He's a beaten boy in Salem House. He's the unluckiest boy because he takes all the blame, of the boys in Salem House. Okay, so let's try to go to the summary of the story. The story is assigned to you. It was assigned to you for reading, and we expected you to highlight the words that are Greek to you, that are new to you, and take them down in your booklet or your notebook, copybook, and try to get to know the meanings and apply the meanings to the chapter. In any passage that you read, you have to do the same and make it a practice, because in this manner you increase your vocabulary. You'll know the meaning of many words that are new to you. Okay, so let's try to have the summary. Let's read it so we may somehow recall what happened in chapter 2. Okay. David was very unhappy living with his mother, his stepfather, and his aunt Peggotty. he was not allowed to play with his friends and did not even go to school. And for that reason, he was schooled at home and he led a very lonely and sad existence. Mr. Murdstone was a very unkind man and he hit David with a cane. Once, after such a beating, David bit his stepfather's hand. Mr. Murdstone marched the boy upstairs and he was kept prisoner in his room for 5 days. So he is in a very pitiful state. He's living in this condition with his stepfather and he's experiencing all these beatings from him. Okay, let's continue. Not long after that, Mr. Murdstone sent David off to a school in London called Salem House. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Barkis, when he brought David to Yarmouth, to a station where he traveled overnight on his way to London, because from there he would be fetched by Mr. Mel. Okay, let's continue. He was fetched by a teacher named Mr. Mel. After a month, he met his classmates and the school's headmaster, who is Mr. Murdstone's friend, and his name is Mr. Crickle. He became close to Tommy Traddles and James Steerforth. During the Christmas holidays, he had the chance to go back to Blunderstone, where he saw his newly born baby brother. And as soon as the holidays ended, he headed back to Salem House, and he was so excited to see Tommy and James again. Okay, you will find in your book on page 93 activities while reading for chapters 1 and 2. And here are the guide answers. For question number 1, why did Betsy want to have a niece, not a nephew? So the guide answer is because she wanted to bring up a girl and prevent her from making the mistakes she had made in her life. Number 2 question is what happened while David and Peggotty were in Yarmouth? David's mother married Mr. Murdstone. And number 3, who came to help David's mother in the house? Miss Murdstone. Miss Murdstone is the sister of Mr. Murdstone. Question number 4, why was David locked in his room for 5 days? Because he had beaten Mr. Murdstone's hand when Mr. Murdstone had beaten him. For question number 5, why did Peggotty run after the cart when David left? Because she wanted to give David a purse with 8 shillings in it and a paper bag full of her special cakes. 6th question, what was Mr. Barkis' message to Peggotty? The message was Barkis is willing. You see, on their way to Yarmouth Station, Barkis was talking to David, and he mentioned to David that he is willing. That means he is willing to marry Peggotty and live with her the rest of his life. Question number 7, who did David make friends with at school? It's Tommy Traddles and James Steerforth. And question number 8, what happened to the 8 shillings Peggotty had given David? Well, James Steerforth, because he's the oldest boy in Salem House, he knows who to deal with and how to deal with especially young boys and new students. So James Steerforth had it. He said he would take care of the 8 shillings, take care of the 8 shillings for David, and then spend it all on food and drink, which all the boys shared. And question number 9, we have what was different about David's home when he returned. David's mother had a new baby and was not looking well. Okay, so these are the guide questions, and you may check your answers from this guide answers. Okay, now I'm leaving you with comprehension questions. two questions, in fact, and you may write your answers in your copybook, and the answers should be sent to me in our Discord group or in WhatsApp, and you have to answer them. Like, the first one is, what were David's earliest memories? And the other one is, how do we know that Peggotty loved David? Okay, so I'll be waiting for your answers before we proceed to chapter 3. Okay? So thank you for your time, and thank you for listening and being with me while trying to know what happened in chapter 2 to David Copperfield. Okay, so till next video presentation, have a happy virtual learning or learning with our slides, the slides prepared by your teachers from Rainbow. And be safe and always take care. Bye for now.